What is going on, guys? Today I'm going to be talking about how strong I think Trafalgar D water law is. And not just am I going to be talking about how powerful I think he is right now, but I'm also going to be saying what I think he was portrayed to be at the first introduction he was given, and throughout the series up until pretty much Dressrosa. We didn't really see anything in Zoe, and we haven't seen him since. The reason I want to talk about this is because I think that at the beginning of the series, Law was portrayed to be potentially the second or third strongest of the supernovas, and he has really come down on these power levels as far as we're seeing since the Dressrosa arc. But despite him pretty much getting completely annihilated by Dofi, people seem to think that Luffy, Kid, and Law are just the supernovas of destiny. They have to be the three most powerful at all times, and I have all these crazy ass people saying some weird things about Law in my Discord in the verse discussion tab, just thinking that he's just way more powerful than I think he is. I mean, I think I had a commenter just yesterday or a day before that or something saying that Law is Luffy's Whitebeard, right? Like, if Luffy is to Roger, then Law is to Whitebeard, which is just unbelievable to me. It doesn't make any sense whatsoever. I mean, just talking like diplomatically, that's not true. Whitebeard and Roger might have been on decent terms, kind of like how Shanks is with pretty much everybody, but I wouldn't really call them allies in the same way that Luffy and Law are. And in terms of combat power, with Roger being at the top and Whitebeard being like the undisputed second, Law is not anything like that. I mean, from what we've seen from him, he's not even relatively close to Luffy. I get that he has the ultimate Devil Fruit and he has some seriously hacks ability, but for the fact that it is called the ultimate Devil Fruit, I think that is because of the eternal youth that he can possibly give people. I think that that's the real reason for the naming of that fruit, or the title that is given of ultimate Devil Fruit. And I still do think it is an extremely powerful fruit in combat and healing and whatnot, but I don't think that is enough to push Law to Whitebeard level in the future. Don't get me wrong, I'm not saying that he's weak by any stretch. I think he's extremely powerful. I think in Dressrosa, with the exception of Dofi, Luffy, and Zoro, he would have completely eviscerated anyone there, no contest. But I don't think that if he was to go against any of them, he would be able to really do too much. So when he is first introduced in the series at Sabaody Archipelago, I think he was actually extremely powerful compared to the rest of the supernovas. He might have even been the strongest at the time. Now, this obviously does include Luffy, which might seem kind of far-fetched, and I don't know if I really believe it. I could see either one of them being on top, but it definitely is believable. You have to remember that while the entire Straw Hat crew minus Zoro could not really handle a pacifista at all. Sure, there was a lot more going on at the time, but it was pretty much just no chance for them to take down a pacifista. Law and Kid, and their crews of course, were able to actually take one down. Now, they didn't do so well against the second one, but the fact that they were able to, while pretty much coming out unscathed, is pretty impressive. I think it's also worth noting that by Dofi's own admission, with the exception of the abilities his Devil Fruit gives him, Law learned all of his different attacks and fighting styles from the Don Quixote pirates. So I would say that at this level, there is a very good chance that he is probably at least executive level, like Don Quixote family executive level. I mean, consider the fact that he was like pretty much always hanging around Baby 5 and Buffalo, so we could imagine them all being kids. They're probably near the same level. I would argue that Law is probably stronger than Buffalo and maybe Baby 5 anyway. So since they were executives, I would imagine that Law would have been very similar to them. I can't imagine really, even if it is before the time skip, that Baby 5 and Buffalo are going to be stronger than Law, especially with his Devil Fruit. I also think it is a very fair assumption that any of the executives of the Don Quixote family would have had Haki, at least one of them, and probably observation and armament for the most part. I mean, at least most of them, right? I would probably consider that like a prereq just to be an executive. It's not really that hard in the New World at this point. I mean, if all the vice admirals have to have them, then I'm sure they do. And there's the whole fact that Bellamy had Haki, and he was trying to become an executive of their family, and he really was nowhere near like Dofi, just like, no, this guy's a bitch, I don't think so. So I would be pretty surprised if they didn't have Haki, meaning it's very likely that Law could have actually had Haki before the time skip. And I'm gonna be real here, if that is the case that Law did have Haki before the time skip, I think he's pretty much undisputably the strongest pre-time skip of the supernovas. So with that all being said, I think it goes without saying that Law is seriously built up to be one of the strongest characters in End of Series when he is first introduced. The next time we see him, Law appears in Marineford, and while, you know, this isn't really anything crazy or anything, I think it's just worth mentioning that he does appear in Marineford when it's pretty much the greatest battle in the history of the world, at least as far as we know. I'm sure some crazy shit happened in the Void Century that probably far surpasses Marineford. But anyway, I mean, this guy just shows up to save Luffy, which really, I mean, I'm sure, you know, there is some kind of benefit. Obviously, of course, we did find out that Luffy helped him take down Dofi, but could he really even plan that far ahead anyway? The fact that he was willing to go to Marineford just to save Luffy, despite all the shit going on, I feel like he had to be pretty confident in his ship and himself, in his crew's battle strength. So I think he has to be pretty powerful at this point in the story. And then when he actually does recover Luffy and take him to Amazon Lily, one thing I do want to mention, I don't know how seriously this should be taken either, but when they do arrive in the middle of the island and they start having arrows and shit shot at them, he manages to dodge an arrow with his eyes closed, just possibly alluding towards the fact that he could have observation hockey at this point. So just, you know, take that for what it's worth. I just thought it was worth mentioning. So then the time skip happens, and this is where things start to go downhill. He did do a pretty good job of soloing Tashigi and Smoker at the same time, but we do find out later that pretty much anyone who's worth anything can do that anyway. So yeah, it was very cool. I did love seeing that happen, but I don't think it's anything crazy. I don't think that Law's fight against Vergo is worth even talking about, or really fair for either side, considering that not just was it a 2v1, but Law didn't have his heart the entire time, so both sides had like really weird things stacked against them, and I just, what can we even really say about him from there? So then we get to Dressrosa, and this is where everything just crumbles. Everything we thought about Law doesn't make sense anymore. He just gets completely destroyed nonstop. He faces off against Fujitora and Dofi on Greenbit, and it really isn't even that. It's not even like a 2v1 or anything. Pretty much, Fujitora's just screwing around and lets Dofi chase down Law like the sad animal he is. And then for the next like 30 minutes, Dofi just beats Law's ass all around Dressrosa with pretty much no resistance at all. It's hard to watch, honestly. And don't get me wrong here, like, Dofi is a god among men. I think that he was undisputably stronger than Luffy in this point of the story at Dressrosa, but I don't know. I mean, he is just shitting all over Law. Like, it's not even a fight at all. He's just toying with him. He could have killed him pretty much a million times, but he wanted to capture him instead so he could get him to use the Eternal Youth Surgery on him. Then after Luffy helps Law escape and they go screw around for like 300 chapters or something, they finally come back together, and it's pretty much a 2v1 Law and Luffy versus Dofi. Sure, Treble is there, but like I've said a million times, he really doesn't do anything. He doesn't compare to anyone there. He has no effect on the battle except for just like really small plot reasons, like when things are getting dramatic, he'll like separate Luffy and Law or something, and then that ends up not even doing anything 5 seconds later. But then again, it's probably not fair to call it a 2v1 anyway, since Law is not really equal to one person anyway, considering we're dealing with Luffy and Dofi. I think they totally outclass him at this point. I mean, even after Law is like the main reason they're able to pull off their ultimate stratagem, that doesn't really do anything to Dofi, and as soon as he is able to separate Law and Luffy, he just shits all over Law, no contest. Don't tell me that it was unfair because it was 2v1, Law versus Treble and Dofi. I've already told you guys, Treble had no effect on this fight, especially because he usually wasn't doing anything anyway. He was just like talking shit to Law, and Dofi was just tearing him apart. I mean, eventually he has him just like hanging by his arm, just talking shit nonstop, like saying, you know, this is all your fault that this country is like that. If you wouldn't have let Corazon die, this wouldn't have happened. And then he just cuts his fucking arm off, like it's no problem. After a little bit more shit talking between Dofi and Law, Dofi pretty much thinks that he kills Law, but because of his devil fruit, he was able to pull off some more bullshit. And then Law is completely out of commission. He is no longer able to participate in the fight until, of course, Luffy comes there to help him. He's able to switch places with Luffy and hit one final Gamma Knife. Again, this would not have been possible without Luffy, so really that is not his own power. And even then, he uses his ultimate attack, which is supposed to be unblockable by anybody, and 5 seconds later, Dofi's back up at full power. Sure, he's not really at full power. He has taken actual damage, but still, anyone is supposed to die from this thing, and it wasn't enough. So he's not a god. And that really is, by all accounts, the last time we see Law do anything significant. I mean, he's pretty good. He's got some crazy tricks up his sleeve, but at the end of the day, he really is an assassin type kind of fighter. He's not particularly strong in a 1v1 situation unless he's already like decisively more powerful than his opponent, and then what are we even questioning here, right? I mean, pretty much it's one of these situations where, you know, sometimes we have counters, sometimes someone is like overall weaker than someone, but because of their devil fruit or something, they have a hard counter and they might actually be able to win. But I think because of the way Law's fruit works, if he does have a significant power level advantage over someone, he'll probably beat them every time. It's really not easy to counter Law at all. But yeah, I think he's a strong character. I think he's probably in like the top 5 of the supernovas, but I don't really think he's anywhere near the level of those top players like Luffy and Zoro. I even made a versus battle of Law versus Zoro, and I said I think like at least 90% of the time Zoro's going to win that. I think he is a true monster, and while Law is super powerful, again, I just don't think he's quite at that level. I think Zoro is pretty much almost at Luffy's level. So for Law to be, I don't know. I mean, sure, if he's gonna be like the next Whitebeard, or I guess he's gotta be. But how the hell is that gonna happen? If you enjoyed this video, remember to give it a thumbs up and subscribe if you haven't already. Remember to leave me a comment letting me know what you thought about this video. If you thought I'm just a complete idiot, I have no idea what I'm talking about, Law is most certainly going to be the next Whitebeard. He is the pirate who is going to get Luffy to the Pirate King title. I most certainly don't think that's going to happen. Could even see Law potentially betraying Luffy, but, you know, what are you going to do? Thank you so much for watching until the end. I hope you guys have an excellent day, and I will talk to you on Friday.